on the very eve of the first full weekly reset of the War Within expansion, today we are entering the week which is preceding the week where the, let's just say, pre-season of the expansion is going to be released. We are talking about the normal raid, the heroic raid, as well as the mythic 0 dungeons are going to be available. Now, obviously, there is some trepidation about the unlocking of the mythic 0 dungeons because that's going to be much higher increased item level loot. Now you can move up from just the measly heroic dungeons and start getting some better loot. Some players might feel strapped for time because unlike previous expansions, now Mythic 0 dungeons are on a daily lockout instead of a weekly lockout. So now you find yourself, let's say, for example, with 3 characters, considering how simple leveling in this expansion was. You have 3 characters and technically you are able to do 8 daily Mythic 0 dungeons per day per character. So that would require you to run 24 different Mythic 0 dungeons every day for a week if you wanted to try to maximize the gear on your character, because Mythic 0 will drop 593 item level loot, which is higher than any base level item you are getting now. So that is what is going to be the chase farm for next reset. However, we are here today to point out something that might actually not really require you to be grinding nearly as much. Something that for now, of course, you have been suggested not to use, you have been suggested not to do, which are the restored Coffer keys you have been getting from weekly events that theoretically you could go and then use at the end of a vault on the shiny, sparkly purple chest to get an extra reward. Now, the reason why it is important to point out is because it's practically the first time it ever happens whenever some dungeons or some raids are opening that you have a different activity that can actually give you better loot. You know, even in previous expansions with things like Torghast, things like Island Expeditions, Warfronts, Wither Training Scenario, even those were just gimmicks which at best gave you maybe 1 piece of gear. However, that is not the case with Delves, and that is not the case with the Coffer keys you will be using, at the very least for the first maybe couple of weeks of this season. Why is that? Well, number one, right now you should be at about 6 Coffer keys. You should have gotten a couple of keys from a couple of weekly quests and one-time turning, I think, the quest from Bran before the actual beginning of the full week, last Tuesday or last Wednesday. And then this latest week, you should have gotten 4 from 4 weekly quests. Specifically the main weekly quest where you got to choose which activity you wanted to do, and then the 3 weekly open world events. The one in Hallowfall, the restoring the machine where you have to deal with the waves of enemies, and then the theater troupe in Dornogal, right? You complete these 3 events plus the weekly quest, you get 4 keys. You should also have already given the world quest that have been available 75 Coffer key shards. So just 1 more world quest with these shards and you will get an extra key. So you are in prospect of getting 7 keys. Now, in this reset, you will have another weekly quest, 3 more open world weekly events to get 4 more keys. So you will go from 7 to 11, perhaps, / possibly, maybe even another couple of world quests giving you shards. And then on September the 10th or September the 11th, on the beginning of the Mythic 0, Normal Raid and Heroic Raid week, you should get another 4 keys, the weekly quest plus the 3 zone events on a weekly cooldown for the reward, which should put you at 15. And then that week, you should also get 2, maybe 3 world quests giving you the key shards, which will put you at 16 keys total. Now, the reason why this is relevant, of course, is because even with Mythic 0 opening, even with you now being able to just farm Mythic 0 for 593 item level loot, there is a loophole in this gearing plan of next week. And the loophole is that with that week, what will also unlock will be the Delve system past just the lock we have now of Delve Tier 3. So with the Delve tier 3s being unlocked, you can go all the way up to Delve tier 8. Now, we have touched on the Great Vault point about the Delves, the fact that on the September the 10th week, the best reward from the Great Vault will be the Delve system, because completing Delve tier 8s will put in the Great Vault a 616 item level piece of gear, whereas dealing with Mythic 0 will put a 603 item level piece of gear in the vault, so it's much better to get your vault from the Delves rather than Mythic 0. It's only comparable to doing Heroic Raid, but even then, most of the Heroic Raid won't even get to 616. You would have to upgrade it to get that high. However, what's also happening with Delves, besides the good tip of getting from the Great Vault the 616 item level rewards from doing tier 8 Delves, is also the fact that you can use the Bountiful Delve reward with your Coffer keys. At the end of the run, the purple chest, you can open it now with your keys if you went to tier 8. It's good to open it at tier 8 because that's the cap of the item level reward from the Delve system, which is champion 3 out of 8, 603 item level. This is relevant because in that week, as we mentioned, Mythic 0, which you wanted to spam as soon as it was open, only rewards you with 593, which means the Delves are a whopping 10 item levels above the rewards of Mythic 0. Also, technically speaking, the Delves are a guaranteed reward. In Mythic 0s, you might, number one, not even complete the dungeon, your group might disband, and number two, you might not even be the one getting the loot in that run, whereas if you're doing a Delve by yourself, you are the one getting the loot. And as we counted all the keys we get, by the time this week opens, you should have 16 keys. This means 16 pieces of 603 item level gear. Now, checking our character right now, 16 pieces is practically the entire gear, right? It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Now, obviously, you might be unlucky. Sure, maybe the Delve system will give you 4 different cloaks, 6 different rings, and 3 different belts, and then you will be kind of screwed. But even if you account for some doubles, which will likely happen, because at some point you will only have, say, 1, 2, 3, and 4 slots that you need to upgrade, and you just need to hope in the RNG, right? So even if those 16 keys only end up giving you 8 or 9 pieces of gear that can be used, so barely more than half, that is still half your gear. That is still half of your gear that will be easily higher item level than Mythic 0s. Don't forget something we touched on before when talking about the renown with 3 of these factions, that you can get the helmet, the shoulders, and the chest at 584 item level. This is relevant because even right now, you could take any one of these and upgrade them to 606 item level for the cost of, as we mentioned, things you won't really be needing, the carved Harbinger crests and the weathered Harbinger crests. So on top of the rewards you're getting from the Delve, you already know that if you want to, you have a helmet, a shoulder, and a chest piece you can get to 606 because of this upgrade system from the renown rewards. Also, perhaps not that weak, but you also have 1 crafted item. In fact, we already have the materials for possibly crafting an item. So maybe, for example, one of your rings, one of the slots for your rings is already taken by a possible item you will be crafting, plus the 3 slots from the renown rewards, plus all of the 603 items you will get from the Delves. So when you put all of these together, when you put the 3 item from the renown, you can possibly upgrade the crafted item, the slot you are planning to craft first, and then the 16 pieces you will get from the Delve system. Now suddenly the need you have to farm a lot of Mythic 0 to get this gear becomes very outdated. This almost stressing feeling you have about, oh god, Mythic 0s are opening, I have to stay on here all day playing 8 different Mythic 0s on every single character I have if I want to maximize my loot. It is not nearly as relevant of a thing thanks to the Coffer keys you have been stockpiling up to now. Now, the one thing worth mentioning though about the Delves is that even right now, completing Delve tier 3 has a recommended item level for this Delve of 545 item level. So technically, for completing a tier 8 delve, the recommended item level should be around 585-ish, maybe even 590 item level requirement. So they most definitely will not be nearly as easy, of course, as they are now, right? Because even if you plan, for example, to spend all of your Weathered Harbinger quests, I already have 2 crafted items, plus you can get an extra 5 crafted items at 590 item level. Next reset, or in a few hours, you will get even more Weathered Harbinger quests, so you will be able to get 3, even 4 more of these crafted items. As mentioned, you can still upgrade your renowned pieces to 606. So if you actually get to equip all of these crafted items and actually upgrade your gear, you should be getting to that level quite easily. And once you do get at that level, it's when you can start grinding all of these +8 delves on multiple different characters to consume all of your coffer keys for the 603 item level gear. I thought this was a relevant disclaimer to be had, just in case some players were starting to get a little bit antsy at the possibility of having to live in Mythic Zeros for the next reset. It's actually not that important. It's actually not that relevant given the power that the delve system will have, at the very least for the first 1 to 2 weeks at the beginning of the season. This, of course, assuming Blizzard hasn't, stealth nerfed the whole system between beta to live and will actually go live as we expect it to. So this was today's disclaimer about the importance of the delves the moment the season actually comes out. It will be a short-lived importance for the delve system, but very much appreciated, as it will allow players to go solo more at their pace to get a bunch of good upgrades, rather than having to spend most of your time in groups in dungeons to get most of the rewards you would normally get before entering a raid, for example. So for today, on this Tuesday, and as we are in the process of going through this weekly reset, it's now time to leave each other. We are, as usual, starting the goodbyes by thanking everyone for having watched the video, as well as for supporting completely for free by liking and commenting down below, as well as subscribing to the channel itself. Now, with these things out of the way, thank you guys again for watching. See you guys tomorrow, and in the meantime, yep, I know, don't tell me this is late. Once again, for some reason, my alarm doesn't ring and I wake up like 3 hours later.